NCBeerBuzz, Days Behind the Camera Day. We're happy to be in Lenoir, and we're with Jason Howard and the Howard Brewing Company. Thanks for having us today.
Thanks, I'm glad you guys could come.
We wanted to find our way to Lenoir and see what Jason and his crowd was up to, and we're down now in the Taproom, which is right off of Main and what's the other street?
Boundary Street.
Main and Boundary, and you park mostly behind the building?
Yeah, we're actually in one of those nice one-way street situations, so you actually have to pass by the building, come around the block, and our parking lot is in the rear.
We're going to move over in a little bit and see the brewery operations, but for now we wanted to start behind the tap room where the busyness actually goes on. So Jason, how did you guys get started down here, and how did you personally come to be a brewery owner?
You know, I was an avid home brewer, as are a lot of professional brewers. They start off at home, in the kitchen. You know, you hear all about the stories of the buckets and the carboys all over the place.
We know the story.
That was me. So I would guess this is about 10 years ago that I started really getting heavily involved in home brewing. And at the time I lived in Michigan, and my wife and I relocated down to North Carolina. And during that time I started to get more heavily involved with some of the local homebrew clubs, and especially the Hickory Club class. And over the course of a couple years, I started working pretty closely with Old Hickory in a lot of their events and their competitions and organizing things with them. So I just got more immersed in the professional brewing scene. And then as that went on, I started to get immersed over in with the brewery in Morganton, Catawba Valley. So I became close friends with those owners and brewers, and I have always owned my own business previously to this, so it seemed like when the time was right, I felt pretty comfortable making the leap from one business to another. The big question was the beer. You know,
the self-employment and the business ownership didn't phase you. It
exactly.
was the beer side.
Right. That's a huge aspect. I talk to so many people who I think their biggest hurdle is I don't even know where to start.
They know the beer.
They know the beer.
They know the brewing process.
They may have worked in a brewery.
Right.
They may be really, really qualified to do this, but that business side and the administrative side is a pretty big hurdle. So I was fortunate that in growing up, my parents were entrepreneurs. We always were self-employed. I have always been self-employed, so that hurdle had sort of been crossed. So then it came down to the viability of us actually opening a brewery. And, you know, for the love of beer, of course, but then you still have to put food on your table. So that's when it becomes a business. So we spent a long time, this is about 3 years ago.
And it's you and the wife?
Yeah, my wife and I are the only owners.
All right.
And we have been fortunate that she's stayed home with our family most of the time and helped me in many other ways. We have two small children, a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old, and we actually live in Hickory. So we're about 20 minutes down the road. We started by writing a pretty extensive business plan, and I think it was more of an exercise in convincing ourselves whether it would work or not.
Because once you could see it on paper, maybe it had more realistic.
Right. I mean, I really looked at it as a possibility that I would get done writing that business plan and decide that I don't know that this will work.
So you were not locked into a decision prior to the plan. You used the plan as a catharsis
absolutely.
to move you in one place or the other.
That's right. And it was a good 6 to 9 months of heavy, research and planning. And at that point, we hadn't even selected the location yet. During the course of writing that plan,
always knew it would be Lenoir?
No.
Okay, you were in Hickory.
I was looking at it in an abstract way, as in if we could find a location that had XYZ, let's put the scenario together. Just knowing that in this area, there's a decent amount of real estate available in manufacturing, based on our textile and furniture history.
Right.
So I wasn't certain where I wanted to be. I was certain I wanted to be in a city or a downtown area that didn't have another brewery. Not because I think that you can't coexist. I mean, clearly we see that in a lot of the cities in North Carolina. But I think for me, I'm drawn to, Lenoir is, let's face it, it's sort of a struggling downtown area, but it's got a great, vibrant downtown community that I think has the potential to grow into a nice Main Street type scenario.
And there's a certain synergy that comes from being a part of that.
Absolutely. Right. And I think that, in a lot of these places, takes that first step, to bring people back downtown, and that sort of deal. So Lenoir has a lot to offer in certain ways. In some ways, it has a long way to go, but
because being the first is always a little groundbreaking to do, I guess.
Yeah. You struggle with that occasionally, on a Friday night, and you're thinking, geez, I'm sure if I was in Charlotte, there'd be more people in our tap room. However, the support that you get from a local, smaller community, I think in the long run, may outweigh in some ways
the loyalty and the brand.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's not as many places to go in downtown Lenoir either.
And you can't discount the fact that when you take a chance like that in an area like Lenoir, you do get the benefit of the lower overhead and higher visibility. And our business plan for the brewery was always to be more of a production facility where we would, as quickly as we could, start packaging the beer and have it out in the market. So we sort of went a little bit of a different route where we weren't relying on the on-premise. That the long-range plan was to put the brewery together,
and a production brewery,
get the beer out, and then start. We can get the cans as many places as we can, and our seasonals come out in 22-ounce bottles, and of course as much draft as we can do. So for us, our business is structured a little differently than some smaller breweries, because we are a small brewery, a 15-barrel brewery. Right now with our tank space, we probably, until I make the leap and put some more tanks in, I think we'll max out at about 750 barrels.
Okay.
Only because I'm a crazy brewer who has 2 lagers in our rotation as our main brand, so that kind of kills the tank space for a while. But
we're going to see the back in just a minute.
Sure.
But let's talk about the beer. Now, you've been in this location for how long? Now, didn't quite finish our story.
Yeah. So we opened in our first keg sale was at the end of September of 12.
Okay.
So we're literally just over a year old. We didn't even open the little retail space or the tap room until February, maybe of 13.
So we're in the same year.
We're in the same year even, yeah. This was an afterthought. Only we had so many people asking, well, are you open yet? Are you
where
open?
Can I try?
Yeah.
And where can I?
And it was kind of a strange conversation to tell them, well, yeah, we've been making beer for months,
but
and you can get it at all these restaurants, but no, we don't have any place to serve you a beer. So we opened up the small tap room, and I think we have 26 or 28.
And if people want to come into the tap room, what are the hours?
Thursday through Saturday, 5 to 9.
Okay.
And then Sundays 1 to 4.
Great.
It is a true tasting room. We don't have a kitchen or food, but there are 3 or 4 places downtown that deliver directly to us during those hours. We've got like a bistro, a Mexican place, pizza, and a barbecue place that will all
bring your food in with you, or order once you get here.
That's right. We're a carry-in establishment.
All right. Which is not unusual for the beer scene.
No, it's not. And we're fortunate that in North Carolina, as far as the legislation goes, that they've given us the opportunity to have these tasting rooms, because quite frankly, I think everybody underestimates how helpful it is just to have a few people in here drinking beer by the glass, to help keep the lights on, to be honest. I mean, any new business with as much overhead as a brewery has, you're watching every penny, and it is helpful.
And you can do this side for relatively low dollars compared to the brewery side.
That's true. And growler sales, of course, in North Carolina have been picking up continuously, and especially now with places being able to fill on premise. That's a big part of our market is being visible, being able to send them home with a growler, and kind of get the word out that way. So, and I'm hoping that as we grow in distribution around Western North Carolina, that that will be a reason for people to then come see us. Great. So I think having this here is both helpful now, but I think it may even be more of a benefit once we're kind of out in the market a little more. So
let's move into the back and see what we're talking about on the brewery side. So we're continuing our discussion with Howard Brewing, Jason Howard in Lenoir, and we move now into the guts of the process here in the brewery, and we want to talk more about the beer and where you might get your hands on some of the Howard product and what we might look for in the future. So we've had and we've reviewed on our site the canned product, and that's what we know you as.
Sure.
What kind of beer besides the 2 products that we see in the can, and what are they?
Okay, so the 2 cans that you guys have tried are Action Man Lager, which is our amber lager, or Vienna style lager, and Trailmaker Pale, which is our sort of aggressively hopped American Pale Ale that sort of rides the line between an American Pale and an IPA. Those are the first two packaged products we launched.
And they're always going to be the flagships, probably?
I would say so. The way we sort of structured our brands, we have 4 year-round mainline products. Trailmaker and Action Man, of course. We have also got a classic American Pilsner called the Weekender, and we have a black IPA called Lake Fever. The Lake Fever will be in cans early next year, and then the Weekender will follow in the summer. So we will put all 4 of those brands in
a year from now.
Yeah, well, within the next 6 months, I think we'll see both of them. We also do 2 once-a-year seasonals. In December, actually, yeah, in a couple weeks, we'll release Mistletoe, which is our oak-aged raspberry porter, and that is in a 22-ounce bottle. It's got a nice, it's actually a really festive packaging. It's got a nice foil label that's vintaged every year, and we wax cap it in white wax to mimic the snow. And so we bring that out in December each year, and that's a 7.5% robust porter as the base beer. So that'll be available soon, and that will go all the way to Raleigh. We will have that from here up through Watauga County, Boone and Blowing Rock, through Greensboro into Raleigh, and then kind of back around to Charlotte. I think we'll have about 120 cases this year.
Okay. And the other seasonal?
The other seasonal comes out in April. That's General Lenoir's Old Ale. So that was a unique recipe that we developed from a handwritten recipe from General William Lenoir that was dated 1795. So that one also comes out in the 22-ounce bottle, and then
same distribution.
Same distribution. Yep. Right. And then everything that we make, we also do supply in draft, in half barrels and sixth barrels, and of course everything from our tap room, and some of those mainline beers we are pre-packaging in growlers, and you will see those pop up at bottle shops as well. So, and of course they can come and get them from the tap room as well.
Now, we can't leave without talking about some future plans.
Yeah.
There's something going on there. You've come this far, you're still establishing some things, you've got some plans. What's the future look like for Howard? What are you thinking?
I'm very, very pleased with the reception we've had so far on our products. Again, our plan was to introduce and really maintain control of a handful of brands rather than be launching a new beer every week, or that's just not our style. So we really are focusing on the quality of those handful of brands, making sure that the packaged product is being delivered to the retail end correctly, and sort of entrenching ourselves in the areas that we've started distributing to, so that we can build a stronger base there before we start to overreach and head too far east or west.
Right.
So my plans for the next year are to expand a couple of tanks, probably a couple of 30-barrel tanks.
And your production capacity here now is?
I think we're around 750 barrels, unless I really start pushing it. So if we, with the addition of a couple 30-barrel fermenters and a 30-barrel bright, we should double that basically. And we're going to focus on Trailmaker, Action Man, Lake Fever, and the Weekender in those packages, so that we can really build a solid following for those.
Brand recognition.
Yeah. One of the things that we tried to develop was that our brand would not be you wouldn't likely be able to tell if this is a new brewery or one that's been around for 10 years. And the branding part of that was important to us, that we feel that our line of beers are solid, approachable, craft beers that aren't necessarily the wackiest or aren't necessarily the most, approachable. But we sort of ride right in that, where a craft beer lover knows that they can come back to a Howard beer.
Consistency.
And be consistently happy with it each time they grab it. So our plan is really to focus on what we're doing and make sure that it's staying exactly where we want it, and grow the brands in the geography we're in. I think that's going to take us through a couple of years to do it how I want to do it.
And we'll be back then for another year.
Yeah, there you go.
Exactly. We appreciate so much you having us in
I appreciate
today.
it as well. I appreciate you guys trying the
We
beers.
love what you're doing.
Well, thank you very much.
If you guys who are reviewing us get a chance to get out and try some Howard Brewing, we encourage you to do that. Remember, until next time, drink local, Keep your beer dollars in North Carolina. We'll catch you later, buds.